Well, thank you very much for joining. I'll introduce you as Jessica Gerrity, but I suspect most listeners and viewers will know you as Jess in Tokyo.
Thank you.
So it's a real pleasure to have you. And the beauty of doing this both on audio and video is I can see you've got some fantastic items behind you as well. It's nice Yoroi and bits and pieces. Absolutely trumps my Yari
Oh,
in the background as well.
oh,
So
I love it. Oh my gosh, how did I not notice that? Sorry.
um,
Wow.
but I mean I will work on the basis that a large number of people listening to this will be familiar with you through social media, which perhaps we can come to a bit later. But for those that aren't, perhaps you could introduce yourself briefly and let us all know how a Kiwi has ended up in Japan for quite so long.
Right. Okay. So thank you for coming to listen today, everybody. I'm Jessica Gerrity, originally from Auckland in New Zealand, and I've been living in Japan in Saitama, which is north of Tokyo, for about 20 years in total now. So that will give away my age a little bit. I have been studying martial arts for about 5 years, give or take. So my main martial art actually is Kyudo, and other martial arts that I've started and have been studying include Naginata and sports Yabusame, which is a sports type of horseback archery in Japan. Yes, so I'm glad. I'm kind of really looking forward to being able to talk about Kyudo. Please, I apologize for my accent in advance that I don't sound like a New Zealander, because when you live in Japan, your accent becomes quite sort of, it disappears. So there you go. I don't sound, well, neither here nor there. So yeah,
Well,
apologies.
no need to apologize. You're very, very clear and very articulate. So what drew you to the Budo arts in the first place? Because it's something which you clearly developed a real passion for.
Yes. So ever since I was small, I'd really been interested in archery. Mum kind of wouldn't let me start, unfortunately, but I would read books such as King Arthur, and I would love. There is a manga, a comic called Asterix and Obelix.
Yeah.
So I would love these Roman gladiators, and I was so interested in King Arthur. I wanted my own sword, my shield, the whole armor, everything. So I had an interest in medieval sort of, I wouldn't say martial arts, but arts. I wanted to joust.
Yeah.
Like, this is kind of coming from, my father is from the UK, and my mother is a New Zealander. So I had no sort of Asian culture, no Japanese culture, no Korean culture, anything at all, until one day at university I was invited to come to Japan.
Yeah.
So during my university studies is the first time I visited, and I sort of fell in love with, at the time I was studying town planning, I fell in love with the city that had such high density, yet everybody was moving around on a train. I'd never been on a train until I got to Japan, on a Shinkansen, like bullet train. This is amazing. Great mega city.
Yeah.
That was working sort of something for Auckland to, look towards in the future. So I'd just been studying about this sort of thing, and I had gone to Japan, and I was like enamored with how amazing the city was in terms of its town planning.
Yeah.
So I thought, wow, and I want to come back. And so eventually, year upon year, I was 5 years at university. On completion of my master's, I'd been coming every year, going to Japan.
Yeah.
So I decided that I wanted to try to work and live, and I interviewed for an English teaching position because I had no Japanese at all. And yes, I mean, to teach English, you don't need Japanese and just a university qualification. So I interviewed and got the job and came over and started to work. However, this doesn't answer the question about where does Budo come in. It was much further down the track. About 12 years ago, I had just, my daughter was about maybe 1 or 2 years old, and we were walking through a park, and the park happened to have a dojo, a Kyudo. So
Yeah.
Kyudo is the Japanese art of martial. Kyudo is the Japanese martial art of archery, so the way of the bow. And I happened to see this amazing keiko, this practice that they were doing, and it was very, very slow. Everything was very calm, very, very quiet. And I ended up just standing watching the practice probably for about 20 or 30 minutes. And I thought at the time, like, this is amazing. Like, I really want to try this. Went back home after the cherry blossom viewing with my family and searched, however, didn't happen upon much information.
Yeah.
And this is one of the things about Kyudo about 12 years ago. There wasn't that much online info. And yes, about 5 years ago, I was given a chance to start via a senpai, a person who practiced Kyudo, and in my area in Saitama. So I joined the course, and I haven't looked back. It's really, really super amazing. However, it has led to many, 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 many other things. You'll see on my Instagram feed. So one thing sort of led to another, which led to another and led to another. So now I wear armor on horseback and shoot a bow on horseback, katana on horseback, and different types of archery, shihamato and yokyu, a very small little bow. I have all these different types of archery that I've found. So it's not just Kyudo that uses a yumi, is what I've found out. So I'm sort of, my Instagram is just going through all the different sort of things I'd like to do. And yes, I haven't managed to answer your question very succinctly, but there we go.
No, it's quite the journey, isn't it? And I mean, having looked at some of the things that you have gone out and experienced during that time, from what sounds like a kind of opportune moment, but stumbling across something, to, I mean, even in the last year, I think you've explored Sojutsu, Naginatsudo, ninjutsu, which was a particularly popular post, I think.
That was so funny.
But it's clearly grown into huge passion, and I think that clearly comes through in terms of how you kind of present yourself externally. But so what was it, having been fascinated historically or beforehand, and then having the opportunity to practice, what was it that then really drew you in and sort of got you to really bite, I guess, in terms of it becoming the passion that it's become? What is it about Kyudo and other arts that really works?
Well, Kyudo, it's quite a mystery to a lot of people. They see a bow and arrow and it becomes archery. And obviously an English sort of weird translation is Japanese archery. However, there are so many differences with that and, like, for example, traditional longbow or recurve. But the whole thing about, I used to be a runner, like I used to run. And that was a great stress relief for me until I found Kyudo. And then I realized at the time that I was running less and less, and I was getting more and more calm. I became this like serene person. And I was like, wow, okay, so Kyudo, this must be the thing that people are talking about, standing Zen or the whole meditation thing. But actually thinking about it, you're spending time thinking about your own breathing and yourself and self-improvement, and you're focusing on the bow and the target and yourself for hours every week. You become very, very like calm and really, really chilled out. So this is one great benefit for me, because I have 3 children and a work. So the days are quite, well, there's a lot going on, and sometimes it can be quite stressful. However, if I have Kyudo as like a kind of a rock for me, as I'm sure it is for other Budoka, it's something to come back to like, just to center yourself and to balance yourself and stress relief and this kind of thing. So that's cute. However, martial arts on horseback and sports yabusame, honestly, that's like an adrenaline rush. So you're, yes, on a galloping horse, would you like to let go and try shoot a bow? So it's just a very opposite side of the scale, still using a Yumi. However, competitive aspect, you have to hit the target. There's a lot of speed. Timing is very important. You know, if you fall off, just don't fall off.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, it's just the difference is massive. However, I was drawn to both of them. So it was always something I wanted to try, sports yabusame. And yes, the pandemic gave me the opportunity. With my Kyudo being shut, I was free to sort of go outside, and it's all outside, so your social distance and everything, and they were still operating. And yes, it just gave me this wonderful opportunity. It's been 2 years since I started, and I don't know, just finding that led to wearing armor.
Yeah.
Yes, so we did have an event. I went to the martial arts school for the horseback archery.
Yeah.
Yes, we're having an event where everyone's going to wear armor on horseback. Would you like to join? So it's like, are you kidding me? Come on. So eventually, yes. Well, I mean, once you get a taste of that, then you need your own, you know,
Yeah.
as you do. Yes. So, I mean, I was on the internet auctions every night looking for like, okay, this is my budget. And it is a Showa, so like an 80s, this one here is an 80s replica of armor, but still very beautiful, and I love it.
Yeah.
And yes, just getting to practice wearing it is honestly, it's just another, like, how does it differ when you're not wearing armor on horseback as to when you're wearing armor on horseback? Like, what's it like using naginata with the armor on horseback, shooting a bow? What gets in the way? The kabuto, and this kind of just discovering things and figuring stuff out about it at my own pace, and then, you know, talking about it on Instagram is really kind of, I don't know, for me it's just an interesting hobby, and I'm really passionate about it. But my rock is definitely Kyudo.
Yeah.
So I come to Kyudo probably I'm in the dojo about 5 or 6 days a week. So that's my go-to, and that's like my main martial art. However, I get to try these wonderful other things every now and then, which they're more of like my hobby, and I can try, you know, adventurous and interesting. Try. Yes.
Well, lots of that resonates with me. So one of the parts of my practice is Iaido, and I get
nice,
something very similar to what you've described from Kyudo. But I also had the opportunity to try Western archery on horseback earlier this year. And I certainly wouldn't describe myself as either an archer or a horseman, and that really showed through. So I think my imagination at doing that in Yoroi is struggling to contemplate. What are the differences when you're sort of working with the constrictions of Yoroi and I mean, having done jiu-jitsu in armor and noted just how different that is.
Oh, you're probably quite experienced then. For me, it was the modern shooting way is you raise above your head, and obviously when you're armor, you have your kabuto and everything is here. So raising above, it doesn't really work. You need to be you need to do your uchikoshi to the side, which is there's 2 styles, and this is the warfare style, so the military style. And I've only been trained in it a couple of times. I've gone to visit different senseis who have taught me different techniques for the military style. But doing it that way is a lot easier, and I can see why this style of archery is made for shooting in armor. So it's just, you know, figuring out this kind of thing is quite interesting, and gives me a chance to try a different type of archery. And yes, shooting in armor is, I mean, fast walk is about all I can manage on a horse right now. No armor story, we can go a bit faster, but yes, everything bounces up and down, and it's like bells and jingle. So the sounds of armor are very, so thank goodness the horses are used to this kind of thing. Yes, so there's no scared horses or anything like that, but it's hopefully something that I'll get little by little, I'll get better. So hopefully in the future I'll be doing some galloping in but we'll see. Yes.
Well, how accessible are these sort of classical or traditional arts over in Japan? Because I think one of the challenges that we see, certainly in the UK, but also in most of Europe and large parts of the US, is there are very few good sensei or even opportunities to try these things, let alone sort of practice them with any kind of frequency. And I think people have a slightly unusual expectation of Japan, and having trained over there a few times in the past, the presumption is that there is kind of Budo on every corner, and it's
Right.
I know that's not the reality, but is it something which is very, very niche, or is it gaining popularity again?
So the horseback archery and bajo buge, which is martial arts on horseback, so all the different things like nagamaki or sojitsu on horseback, is quite rare. So to find that will teach you, it's sort of an art that has died out one time, and then other teachers have brought it back to life, sort of thing. So very few in Japan, I would imagine, under a handful of places where you can learn. Sports, Yabusame, on the other hand, is quite, I believe 10 or 12 places in the whole of Japan where you can learn. So it's gaining popularity, as it's the same probably as overseas horseback archery. So it's a horseback archery sport. So it's for everybody, and kids can learn it too, this kind of thing. So they're trying to bring it, sort of get it, everybody more interested in it. And it started in 2002, so it's still relatively new, this new type of horseback archery using old methods and old equipment and old techniques. So it's an interesting hybrid there. But martial arts on horseback is pretty rare, I think.
And what about Kyudo? Because I suspect that's a bit more accessible, but even then it's still quite rare.
So Kyudo, a large percentage of the population, I believe over 65 or 70% are students. So intermediate school, is that what we say? Middle school or high school or university students. And they, as they graduate, a lot of them quit. But you have a constant incoming students in middle school. So there's this flow of students quitting and starting every year, which keeps the population afloat. And then the other part of Kyudo is adults. And yes, there are many, many dojos throughout Japan. However, to join one, it's a bit of a tricky situation because they only have beginners classes once a year as a general rule. So if you miss that cutoff, you're basically done for. And you need to wait until the next year. Could you imagine just missing it and then having to wait for another months? Right? So they're quite strict about the cutoff dates and this sort of thing. Also, the intake amount of people varies place to place, but about 15, 20 people for that area. And you need to be living in or working in that area as a rule, just to keep the numbers down. My dojo where I learn in Saitama, we advertised recently for a beginner's course, and we got 150 applicants for 15 That's how popular it is. And honestly, and they had to do a lottery, because there were just too many people wanting to start. So this is one of the big hurdles. So there are lots of dojos, and getting your foot in the door is the tricky part, which is what I found. One of the barriers for me was just being able to find the course and then get chosen for it and then start, sort of thing.
And do you find that being non-Japanese is a barrier at all?
In gradings, I kind of stick out like a sore thumb. So my name is spelt, I'm katakana alphabet. And, yes, and I look different. So automatically, when you're in a lineup with 4 other people that you shoot with for the grading, they're like, hey, there's someone that doesn't look like there's an odd one out. So you automatically, I feel like you get the judges or the grading, the senseis, you automatically get their eyes on you, which is something I really want to avoid wherever possible. Look at everyone else, just don't look at me. But otherwise, I mean, the time when I started Kyudo, I was reasonably fluent in Japanese, which has helped me.
Yeah.
But yes, other than that, not really anything in particular. No big issues at all, to be honest.
Okay, well that's really encouraging. I have to say, I think Jessica lends itself to phonetic Japanese translation far easier than Craig does.
Kure.
Yeah, I've struggled with that over the years.
Oh, yes, name katakana is always very interesting.
You've established yourself in a practice that you found that you love, and that's opened the door to many other things by the sound of it. Do you find that you're invited to try new things now, or is it just that you've kind of got this inexhaustible ambition to go and see what you can?
I started working for a Japanese martial arts magazine last year, which is called Gekkan Hiden. So it's their sort of the big martial arts magazine in Japan.
Yeah.
And they have English social media, and it's called Budo Japan. They've given me the position of ambassador of Budo, which is like, okay, it's quite big, right? But that's given me the opportunity to be able to try, for example, this ninjutsu was in order to write an article for their site. So I get this this name that I can then contact people and say, or be invited to come and try different things. So I've had opportunities to try many different things. And just to write about it. I'm still a layman, in terms of ninjutsu or battojutsu or all of these type of things. It'll be the first time I try everything pretty much. However, it's nice to write it up in English and to give other people a little bit of insight, and maybe it will spark their interest too, or when they are over here in Japan where they can access it, because I don't really want to show things that everybody can't try or access. So I'm all about what is the word, but just having things that are available to people. I think it's not really good to show things that are secret and you can never get access to it, but let me show it to you once. I mean, people, I want them to be interested and try for themselves. Like, that's the whole point.
And hopefully with Japan opening up a little more in terms of travel, that will make a huge difference. Is there anything on your list that you haven't yet had the opportunity to experience that you are desperately trying to do?
Yes, so I've tried Batodo, but I'd like to try Iaido. And Kendo. So people have been in my DMs constantly, like, when are you going to do Kendo? And I'm like, I really want to try Kendo. So I found a place finally that will let me. Some places they're not really great with photos and videos being taken. So it's just finding that balance and not being intrusive into a dojo. But this one offers trials for people who are on social media, which sounds fabulous. So I'll get to wear the bogu and do everything, and we can have a little keiko, take photos and make some video and that sort of thing, and just try it out. It's one budo that I've really wanted to try for so long. And there's a famous New Zealander, a kendoka, Mr. Bennett, Alex Sensei. So I mean, I've connected with him on Facebook, and I'm watching his updates, and he's like the most amazing guy. So seeing his passion for kendo and everything related is it's sort of it's a bit catchy. So I've decided I really want to try that.
And I think when it's really infectious like that, it's great, isn't it? Because it does draw you in and want to go through. And then time becomes the issue, doesn't it? Because when you've got busy general life, wanting to do all these things and then continue them becomes quite an interesting balance.
Right. You start to get quite a full plate. So I've figured out, I have one or two practices a day every week. It's like, okay, where can I add in more things? So it's true. You need a balance for family time and work and your passions as well. It's nice to have a balance.
So you've obviously started to experience all these different things, and you have your core practice, and then you are extremely prominent on social media. and which is great if you're the kind of designated Budo ambassador for certain publications, then it's wonderful. But you've really, I think, probably embraced that more than many people. And one of the things that I talk about frequently and try and ask everybody that I chat with is how we can present and kind of preserve these traditional arts, but present them in a much more contemporary way using the kind of newer medium that are out there, and trying to make sure that there is a contemporary application and a new generation, especially overseas, is drawn in. So what was the hook for you in terms of Instagram? Because you've got a huge follower base now.
Thanks to everybody that follows me. I don't know, I'm just kind of doing my thing and putting my daily life and the places I visit, I put them up there. Yeah. It's great that people are interested. And I didn't realize, people are, it's very engaging, like it's making me inspired. I want to try. Wow, really? Okay, I should probably put a bit more thought into what dangerous. So especially being empowering, and like I said before, showing activities and different arts that people themselves, when they're over here or in their own countries, they can search for and try. So yes, but you mentioned preserving, and that balance of preserving the traditional cultures for future generations. Yeah, there's a necessity now because the world is, a lot of it's based on social media. It's just that balance between keeping it sacred, that traditional art, and then showing it to everybody. So a lot of Koryu, which is a Japanese ryuha, old style traditional archery methods, they're quite secretive. Yeah. So it's like, it's difficult. And then, but they have this one opinion where we don't have many members, and we really, it's such a hard time for us, but they won't show anybody anything, you know what I mean? And then you don't need to show everything, but it's an interesting discussion with people who are in these Koryus that are dying out, or they have less and less population over time, especially due to the pandemic. They're getting less members, and then they're sort of torn between over promoting and showing everything, all their special secrets, and not doing anything. And so this is kind of one thing that's always on my mind.
Yeah, and that's a really interesting dynamic, and that contradiction is something which I sort of think about frequently, because there have been periods in time where even the likes of Kotori Shinto Ryu, which is clearly the oldest kind of extant Koryu out there at the moment, that have publicly pronounced that they want to open the doors and invite people in, and that wheels back from time to time. So you get the concern that numbers are dwindling, and that the art and the essence is going to be lost. And then there's slightly more of an open door policy, and then of course it closes, and you then get into the really there's the slightly more obscure arts that are less well known to certainly the outside of Japan world, where you still have kind of blood oaths and secrecy, and you don't get exposed, all those things. And it would be such a shame to see those legacies completely die. But of course, as you say, it's then getting the balance between preserving the tradition in an authentic way, and taking it into the future. And I don't know whether you have the same thing. I see the vast majority of interaction that I have with people across the whole of Budo and on social media as being really positive. But you do get the odd negative or detractor, which are always quite entertaining.
Oh my goodness, where do I start? But yes, it's true. People are nicer to me maybe because I'm not. I don't know. I think if I was an EA doka, if I was an EA practitioner, I would get a lot more people that like to tell you how to do it properly. I get a lot of but just in Japanese usually, because they're Kyudo practitioners themselves. But yes, as you mentioned, striking that balance between preservation and then promotion, that's a really good discussion. And yeah, something that I'm so interested in as well. So making it just keeping it respectful, but still introducing it to other people. So
Yeah,
yeah,
and one of the questions that I get asked quite frequently, and one of some of the recent discussions I've had have been with Aikidoka, where participation worldwide is really dropping,
oh,
and they're having a hard time on social media in terms of lots of criticism and what we would call backseat drivers in the UK, or
oh yes.
armchair quarterbacks in the States.
The Aikido comments, honestly, some people are so mean. Yes.
It is, and it's usually fairly ill-informed. But one of the questions that I get is, should the art change, or should it be kind of hyper evolving? And my answer to that is always, well, actually, no, because the arts evolve naturally anyway. They always have done. It's more of a presentational challenge, and that's
Yeah.
why I'm so kind of interested to explore with you how you've been able to use social media so effectively to keep a good balance between that preservation and tradition, and drawing out all the benefits of the essence of these range of arts without diluting or falling into a notion that they somehow have to change to be relevant to the 21st century. And it's such a difficult balance to strike.
Yeah, it's very tricky, and it depends on the discipline, is what I think it is, and
Yeah.
the sensei is that you talk to, who you go and talk to at the dojo, what their feelings are, because you don't want to overstep on what their main policy for the dojo and the ryuha is.
Yeah.
Yes, just sort of varies on place to place. But I went to one very, very old, 800-year-old, called Ogasawa-ryu. It is a type of archery school that is specializing in yabusame, so traditional horseback archery. And you'll see at Shinto shrines, they'll do the ceremonies of the arrows that make the whistles, which I have right here. And I managed to get into the dojo there, and I've been trying and trying and trying for many, many, many months, but it's quite secret. And to my surprise, when I went into the dojo, I was allowed to wear the full costume. That's now my Facebook profile.
Oh,
full
fantastic.
costume. We went through like, oh, this would be the ceremony at a shrine. So we'll get you to do it from start to finish. So I was like, okay, can someone take photos, please? So they're like, yeah, photos are fine. And they'd got a member to take photos while we did, and they instructed like every part of it. So to my pleasant surprise, they were very open in that sense. And yeah, as long as the information that's posted on social media is correct. So as long as you don't make any mistakes. So that's just one area where I don't have sort of teaching qualifications for Kyudo. So I just sort of present it as I learn it myself, and just try to fact check and make sure due diligence to everything's correct. But yes, hopefully I'll be posting about that dojo in the future. But it's quite mysterious, and people are very interested in Ogasawa-ryu and Yabusame and their styles of archery. However, there's not that much information other than the official website. So they have a very strong social media aesthetic. It's very controlled, the information that they release. And I think that's quite clever. The main teacher speaks English perfectly, and he goes to seminars in America and different areas around the world. So they're very capable in terms of their own branding, is what I can say. Yes, so they're very, very smart, and the branding is very on point, very clever, and everything's perfect. So it was nice to go and visit, and I'm sort of excited to be able to do a post about that. However, this kind of sort of, how can I say, presentation, aesthetic, and branding, it takes a little bit of, you need knowledge and perhaps money sometimes. Yeah. And to smaller courtiers, like this type of marketing, and it doesn't really come naturally to them. So in this way, I'll go over Heikiryu. I visited a couple of sensei in Sendai, and he is wonderful and open, but his dojo is pretty far from anywhere. But he's, anybody can come anytime, and I'll teach you. It doesn't matter what language you speak. And like, oh my goodness, like this is just amazing. I got him to teach me for a day, and they're the ones that do the full armor, like 6 or 8 guys, and they'll do shooting across the grass with their, that's the cordu. So next time, hopefully I'll get him to teach me that. But he just doesn't have like that. He has a social media presence, but the branding and the aesthetic and getting people to join, that's just another step that I think sort of, yeah, anything that I can do to help. So I tried to post about it a little bit, and people are quite interested. They never knew or hadn't heard of this type of archery before. So yeah.
It's a really strange dichotomy, isn't it? Because of course it's the vast majority of external presentation that I encounter, whether it's social media or websites or anything else, is it's more often primitive than not, and these arts are so aesthetically attractive that it should actually be quite easy to present them in a way which is really awe-inspiring. But as you know, if you're not comfortable with camera, or you haven't got that experience of what looks good or what works well, it's quite a difficult skill to acquire, especially when your focus is on an art which has been in existence since pre-Meiji.
Long ago.
So I guess one of the things I was trying to come up with was a question that nobody would have asked you before. So while we're on social media, because you do have obviously the presentation of your content is really vibrant, really wonderful. Who takes the photos? Because you're the subject.
Good question. So yes, most of my photos are taken by, many of the times I tag him, but the one who introduced me to the original Kyudo beginner's course, my senpai. So he's tagged, his username is Kyudo World. Later on, I'll send you the link. But he sort of started photography. So thanks. That's good. Good time. He has an amazing camera, like the most amazing camera and lenses, and we'll be out practicing together, for 5 minutes, just take a couple of shots, because he practices with me for a lot of the arts that I do. So we'll be out on horseback, take some photos, and during a time when we'll be taking turns shooting, and he'll take photos for me, and that's it. So there's no big photo shoot set up, and it's a day of photo shooting, and it's an influencer, and you need to do all this stuff. It's just I took some snaps while we were there. But I mean, the camera makes a very big difference, I think, and the amazing lenses, and of course the talent of the man taking the photos. Sorry about that. Word, I forgot. But yes, having somebody who practices with you, and he's had 20 years experience doing Kyudo, so he's highly ranked and understands what angles look good on camera as well, which really helps. So he has this aesthetic in his mind too, that is being shown on my Instagram for many of the photos. So yes, it's nice to have a team, a little sort of a team that we have creating content. But he's always behind the camera, that's the thing. Well,
he's obviously very, very talented, because they do come across really well. But I completely agree that having someone who understands the subject matter makes such a difference. I mean, I've had photo shoots with pro photographers who've got no interest or knowledge, and of course, they're encouraging you to hold the yari in a particular way that is entirely inauthentic. And you think, well, I can't use this. Or you do then expose yourself to huge criticism because your cam is off. So that's great. I think, as I say, if there's nothing else that we've answered for the public today, that was the question I'm sure that was burning on most people's minds. But actually, one of the things that you did sort of allude to was we were talking about accessibility to non-Japanese, but what about to non-male participants? Because actually it is very different in my experience in Japan in terms of accessibility for or proportion of female participants compared to other countries. What's your experience there?
In terms of being female and trying different Budo, I had no problems whatsoever. Well, however, in saying that, as far as I know, traditional Yabusame or Yabusame Shinji, there are some Shinto shrines, jinja, that don't allow women. As a general rule, Shinto, because women, yeah, that basically there's a rule for some of the Yabusame's wishes and prayers. It's called gyoji.
Yeah.
They don't allow women archers to ride. So there'll be women archers in the group. However, just for this shrine, I'm really sorry, but you can't participate because they're banned, sort of thing. So that's the only thing I've heard of, and it hasn't affected me personally. However, the rules haven't changed in that shrine for many, many hundreds of years, and that's the reason why. But in general, for Kyudo, for Naginata, I mean,
Yeah,
it's just all women in my class. But Kyudo, there's a very nice balance of men and women, and higher up in the ranks, like teachers, highly ranked teachers, there's a lot of females actually, to be honest. So there's no sort of, as far as I can tell, like sexism in that way, in terms of like a glass ceiling and going up in the ranks. However, yes, I mean, if I find somewhere, if I get invited to somewhere or sort of I get turned down for somewhere, perhaps instead, I'll let you know.
Oh yeah, please do. I mean, it's brilliant to hear that, and obviously there are some arts that are sort of famously associated with high-level women practitioners anyway. So Naginata-do being a really good example where traditionally that has always had a high degree of female participation. But your reflections in Japan are definitely not the same outside of Japan, and I think that not necessarily in terms of willingness or openness or any kind of malevolence in bringing females through, but just a lack of participation, I think, by virtue of interest, which again I think comes back to presentation. So the fact that you're so prominent out there will hopefully encourage a better balance in the future. But yeah, I think in general, the last time I checked the stats across the kind of typical Budo arts, your kind of unarmed arts, your kendos, your even Iaido or Budo Etc, maybe looking at 80+% male participation, which is incredibly skewed.
Wow, that's a lot of testosterone.
yeah, absolutely. So but hopefully that's something which will start to kind of emanate out a bit more in terms of balance. Do you think you'll take your journey outside of Japanese borders? So I suspect, given how broad a following you have now, you'll start to get invitations to go elsewhere.
Actually, thought of that. Anybody, you're free to invite me. It's just yes, getting there is another sort of issue. However, it would be amazing to go and have to be in just to visit different, especially seminars, Kyudo seminars, countries. I would love to be able to go and do that if I have a little bit more financial freedom and personal time. However, there was a time right before the pandemic started, I went back to New Zealand and I participated in a Kyudo seminar there, and that was amazing. And 10-year anniversary for New Zealand Kyudo.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was an interesting experience bringing the bow on an airplane, and expensive. Yes, I charged for long baggage or whatever. That was but I learned a lot, and it was cool to be able to connect with my own, how can I say, countrymen, my own New Zealanders, and do Kyudo in Auckland. I mean, that's kind of like a dream come true. That was amazing. And to be helping out the Japanese sensei who were visiting from Japan and translating for them and helping out during the seminar, it was great.
Yeah.
But yeah, good. I would love to be able to go overseas. However, I need to be able to get my teaching grade. It's still a little bit. It's a little bit above, a little bit far away. However, that's something I'd really like to obtain, and then I would be more sort of secure in being able to pass on knowledge a little bit more to people. At the moment, I can be distant, I think. However, to be teaching it's going to take a few more years.
Yeah, well, hopefully, and then obviously continuing the inspiration. The reason I'm smiling at your your comments about traveling with weapons is interesting, because there is a group of people who have the experience of taking what you need to travel with to an airport and finding the route to the oversized baggage reclaim, and watching bags and bags of golf clubs come off the conveyor belt, and then your weapons come off on their own, and everyone looking at you like, you know, they have no idea what you're traveling with. So you're not alone there.
Oh my goodness, I thought you were going to say they were broken in half. So I was like waiting for you to say like my yari was broken in half or my naginata was broken in half, because they're very long and skinny, you know, a lot of these pole arms. So just yes, it's very like, oh, is that a fishing rod? I'm like, wow, yes, it'll be a fishing rod if you want it to be, and that will be cheaper. If I tell you what it really is, then yeah. But actually, on the flip side, Japan, checking in luggage in Japan Airlines check-in in Narita Airport, honestly, it was like, this is the land of the Yumi, the boat, right? Like, you guys know what this is. They're like, I'm sorry, but you know, it's 10 centimeters over. New Zealand, oh yeah, just check it in, mate, no problem. What is that? Why? New Zealand has like no, like, we don't know what it is. It's very long and skinny, but yeah, it's fine. No, it doesn't cost you anymore. Don't worry about it. Oh my God. New Zealand is awesome. Japan is very like, yeah, it's very like stick to the rules kind of a place. I understand, but you are the country of the board, right? So, yes, I have a few choice words for them.
So I mean, we said we'd try and keep this to under an hour, but one of the things that I would like to ask you is what you would say to someone who is considering, you know, who's been inspired and, you know, has looked at what you've put out there and has gone and done their preliminary investigation, and it's, you know, whether it's Kyudo or some of the other things that you've talked about, you know, they're inspired to go and start, and they've done nothing similar before. They've you know, just got the hint that the bug might be there. What do you kind of advise that person to do?
If it's, for example, Kyudo that they've chosen in their heart and that they're interested in, and if they need help searching out somewhere, for example, they can just always message me and I'll help search, and we can connect, because it may be people that I know in the area that I can connect them with personally.
Yeah.
And in terms of physical preparation or being ready, like, I don't know if I'll be able to do it, like having doubts and going somewhere new, going to a dojo can be a very daunting experience in Japan and also out of Japan, because you have this whole group of people and they're all tight knit, and then you're like the new one and you have to say hi and it's a bit awkward. But yeah, getting over that fear of starting something new is a very big hurdle. And then yes, being physically ready, like, will I be able to, you know, even pull the ball? I don't know. Like, I think just give it a try. And actually, Kyudo, it's better if you haven't done anything else. I mean, perhaps other Budo, you'll have a very good, we call it dozukuri. That stance is very strong and you'll have a nice posture. However, going from an archery background, for example, recurve into Kyudo, is very, like, it can be quite tricky for the practitioner when they're trying to figure out their hand movements and angles and this kind of thing. So never done archery before, that doesn't matter. That's probably even better that you haven't done archery and then you try Kyudo. Yes. So I think just give it a go, basically. Yeah, it's can be scary, but it's just taking that step.
Yeah, and you did a recent post about the cost of entry, and I mean that I think is going to be really helpful to people, because it is, I think, a deterrent, especially when you do look at the arts that require equipment. I think that there is and it's actually not. I mean, I sort of liken it in some ways to triathlon, where you'll have, you know, people who are so into triathlon that they'll spend tens of thousands of pounds on a new bike, and no one thinks anything of it. And you start talking to people about the cost of Yumi. Suddenly it's the hardest thing to enter. But it's, I guess, as with everything, you don't need the most expensive equipment to start. Yeah, that's half the point.
Yeah, that was kind of really what I wanted to reiterate, is that even in New Zealand, when you first start, they lend you everything and you can just practice your own clothes. And yes, sometimes it's nice to have dogi and hakama, but people will lend them to you. They have recycled. They have secondhand things that they'll let you borrow on the day. I mean, all the equipment will be lent to you until you take that step and purchase your own. And it's a very big step for things from overseas online. A glove that costs, you know, however many hundred of pounds, it's quite a big step. So it's nice to just have some used options that you can try and get a feel of what suits you. Because even for me, I'm still trying new pieces of equipment and figuring out, hey, this doesn't suit the way that I shoot. So yeah, better not to spend money initially. And that's kind of what I wanted to just reiterate. People say it looks so expensive. I'm like, but it's not. And that kind of like made me a little frustrated. And that's the reason why I made the post, just to, you know, break some of the stereotypes.
And I think that's really helpful for people, because it's, and especially those that have done or might be involved in other Budo arts, that want to kind of try something new or expand their reach, or again have been inspired by what they've seen. So I think that will be really encouraging for people.
Thank you.
So it's just to kind of bring us in slightly. So if I would say to you, what would your message be more generally, in terms of, so whether it's to the experienced practitioner, to the person who has yet to reach their kind of entry point, you know, what would you like to see the Budo arts, whether it's specific to Kyudo or anything else that you've done, become over the next few years?
I'm super invested in getting people to start and finding that entranceway, that door into what they want to get started in. Yeah. So even if it's not Kyudo, I mean, people can always message me and I'll help research for them, because sometimes things are all in Japanese. I'm invested in getting people started and helping them find their way. So that's for people who are interested and they're not quite sure on how to take the first step or where to even look. Does their country even have this sort of discipline that they're interested in? I mean, yeah, so support for people who are interested. I'd like to grow different Budo, because I think personally it's helped me so much. Yeah. And it gives me such a great stress relief, centers me. Like, how can I say, it's kind of weird, but mental health is quite important. And I think in some ways that's given me a very nice sort of mental health, very healthy in that sense, great stress relief. So I think it would be cool if people who are interested in having a bit more balance in their work and their private life were interested in starting Budo, to definitely try. So it'll give you a bit more of a balance, is what I think from my experience. And then to experienced practitioners, just keep on doing what you're doing. But if you can, try to post about it a little bit, even once or twice here and there. Every little bit counts, because someone will see that post, most likely. This is what I say about Kyudo, and it may be a non-practitioner and it may spark their interest. So just to show, it doesn't have to be some gorgeous, amazing photo. It can just be your everyday. And that's enough for a non-practitioner to see that and be inspired to start. Like, it doesn't have to be this amazing, gorgeous, like Instagram photo. It can be just a regular.
And I think that's a great piece of advice, because I think if people were posting their everyday practice rather than presenting in a way that makes it seem hugely esoteric and impenetrable, then it would really encourage, I think, more to be less nervous about giving these things a go. So
yeah.
Well, that's been absolutely brilliant. So thank you so much for the time. I know we've had quite a meandering, rambling discussion on a number of topics, but that's the beauty of these. I think keeping it quite open and seeing where the conversation goes always works really well. I'd say it's thoroughly inspiring to see you out there and projecting and presenting all of these arts in such a positive light as well. So thank you very much for that, and please do also keep doing what you're doing.
Thank you.
if there's anything which you want to see captured in the various show notes, so obviously I'll link to your Instagram, people can find you if they're not already following you. But if there's anything else that you think might be of interest to people that you want to be dropped into the details, then do let me know and I'll make sure that's captured as well. So it's been a real pleasure. Thank you so much.
So much, Craig. It was wonderful.